The time is now 6:30. I'm going to call a session of the Ridgefield City Council to order. And Councilor Favela, would you lead us in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Miss Julie, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Davis.
Present.
Councilmember Favela. Here. Councilmember Wells.
Here.
Councilmember Burkle.
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Chipman.
Here.
Mayor Cole.
Here. Okay. Miss Julie, is there any late changes to the agenda? Or Mr. Stewart, I'm sorry.
No late changes, Mayor.
Okay. We will move on with our agenda. We do have an appointment tonight. We did have a short notice vacancy to the Planning Commission, so we will be conducting a nomination and a approval. And I'm pleased to bring forward to you, Council, the nomination of Mr. Jeff Borchardt for the appointment to the Ridgefield Planning Commission. Mr. Borchardt currently serves as the Director of Community Planning for the Portland Metro Division of Toll Brothers, who is a nationwide home builder, and in this role, he oversees key functions including feasibility analysis, community development, land use entitlements, and government relations. And he brings actually more than 15 years of both public sector and city planning and private sector real estate development with a background that spans from California, Nevada, Idaho, and Washington. Mr. Borchardt holds a bachelor's degree in social ecology from the University of California, Irvine, and a master's degree in urban regional planning from Cal Poly Pomona, where he focused on housing and community development. And he's actively involved in the industry, serving on the government affairs committees for the Clark County BIA and the Portland Metro Home Builders Association. He's also a member of the American Planning Association and the American Institute of Certified Planners, and previously served on a variety of boards and commissions in Nevada before moving to Ridgefield last year with his wife and daughter. I actually had the privilege of serving with Jeff on, or participating in Leadership Clark County over the last year with Jeff, and we were both a member of the class of 2025, and so he's not only a well-qualified candidate, as you just saw, but he's also the kind of citizen you want to have in your community. So I appreciate his thoughtful and balanced approach to policy, and I believe he'll be a good contributor to the commission. So Council, I present to you for your consideration Mr. Jeff Borchardt for Ridgefield Planning Commission, and I would entertain a motion.
Motion to appoint Jeff Borchardt to Planning Commission position number 1.
I'll second.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Council, any discussion on the nominee? Okay. Thank you. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, motion carries, and Mr. Borchardt is our new planning commissioner. He could not be here tonight. He does have a work engagement, so, but we will definitely pass on the good news to him. So thank you, Council. All right, moving on in our agenda is now time for public comment. Anybody wishing to address the City Council regarding items not subject to a specific public hearing may come forward at this time to use the podium. Use the raise hand feature located on the toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom screen. For controls over the phone, press *9 for raise hand and press *6 to mute or unmute. Please state your name and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Mr. Jennings.
My name is Michael Jennings. Thank you again for your deep involvement in the many mental challenges of managing Ridgefield. Thinking carefully makes us more healthy. Another subject. Fireworks are not legal in Portland, Oregon, the big city closest to us. Can we move toward making fireworks illegal in Ridgefield? I could help with writing about that. We could present the serious injuries and deaths that have occurred because of fireworks. Perhaps after presenting the idea of making fireworks illegal in several documents, the idea would become popular. Fireworks force everyone to live with the sounds of explosions. That's all.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to give public comment? Mr. Melroy, welcome.
Thank you very much, Joe Melroy, Ridgefield. I have to tell you this because we had such a great parade and it was exciting, but I've never seen that many people in Ridgefield, and I've been here a day or two. Anyway, I did notice on occasion kids getting close to being under the tires of vehicles. We've got some big vehicles in this parade. I have an idea. I don't want a job, I just want to bring it forward to, we can talk about it for next year. I think that we should make I saw a couple of places where people strung a rope or something and the kids came out to the rope and they stood on it. They came to the line, but I think a line is something we need to make on both sides. With a field marker, like, I don't know how it happens, but very simply something that'll go away. But I think down each side, and then ideally, which we don't have the Royal Rosarians walking our parade route, but if people would do what I've seen happen is the lead floats, often the people get off and walk back the parade route, and they ask the kids to move back and move back and move back, and that works reasonably well, but I think the line might help, and I just bring it to your attention because I'll forget it by next year anyway, because I'm old. Thank you so much for your time.
Good suggestion, thank you. All right, next, come on up.
Hello, Anthony Lugo, Ridgefield. I'm homeowner over here. I own a 1905 house. I've got a little something written here. I lived here in Ridgefield for over 27 years. I grew up in Hawkinson. I have lived in the area most of my life. In the last 3 years, I've watched my neighborhood become a battle zone every 4th of July with the insane amount of fireworks released around my old historical home. One neighbor in question brings the fireworks in on several pallets. Wow. I'm not kidding. I have pictures of this. This year, it came in on 4 pallets. Stacks them proudly in his driveway. And they're still stacked there right now. The dead candles of what's left. Adjacent to my house, on the other side of this neighbor, on another street of my 1905 house, are 3 families who are over the age of 65. Over the age of 65, these 3 families. One of these family members was out putting out fires in their yard while this neighbor was lighting off fireworks over my house into his yard. You can tell I'm a little emotional about this. I put sprinklers up on my house and my shop, knowing what this neighbor does. For the last 2 years, he has harassed us doing this. This is not an uncommon thing. And this year, there was probably 1/2 more fireworks than normal, okay? He also blocked off the road. He blocked off a main road, 6th Street. I believe it's 6th Street. He shut it down. One neighbor went down there to say, hey, stop, you're starting fires. He couldn't get through because he had blocked the road, okay? Like I said, fortunately I put sprinklers on both my house and my shop roof to protect the fire. Witnessing these events in years prior from the same neighbor, I already suffer from PTSD, okay? I take medication. I see a counselor. I take care of myself. But this, I can't be at my house when this guy's doing this stuff. So I'm not able to stay at my home. I feel as though the city is neglectful of me and my neighbors and my community, okay? We've got homes here like mine, built in the 1800s, built in the...
Thank you, yeah. Thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to give public comment this evening? Come on up, yeah.
Hi, my name's Adrienne, and I live here in Ridgefield, and I am speaking to the fireworks as well.
Can you pull the microphone down?
Oh, sorry, I'm short. So just speaking to the property safety and the history and the safety of our residents, you know, in response to the fireworks this year, we were away for the holiday because, you know, it's gotten pretty excessive. When we came home, we did find fire damage on our property. And so, you know, that was concerning. So I was kind of looking up things. Fireworks have caused about an increase in 38% in deaths and 52% in injuries in the last year alone. I'm a nurse, so I see a lot of people with blown off fingers and, you know, things in their eyeballs and all kinds of things. But I was kind of surprised to see a town like Ridgefield with all of the history here and the older homes and all the work you've done to make it such a beautiful place that, you know, and especially the older residents that have been here for a long time. Oh, that's so lucky.
Amber alert,
Was it
sorry.
like 3 minutes?
Everyone's,
I was like, dang, I didn't think that was 3 minutes. Do I get to start over?
yeah.
So anyways, so while that, you know, our home suffered damage, it was minimal because of the precautions we took and the timers and everything. We did make a phone call. Is it done? Oh. We did make a phone call to the police, and they came out, said that there was nothing they could do, and advised that we should come here to the city council. They did say that the sprinklers prevented our property from being severely damaged, and they put out the fire, and we were lucky. But we did speak to our older neighbors, and they were pretty upset about it, and understandably so. You know, it got me thinking about Detroit, Oregon. That whole town burnt to the ground, and they couldn't, you know, save it. You know, it was from a wildfire and not fireworks, but fireworks are preventable, and there's things we can do. In addition, the population's growing in Ridgefield quite rapidly, and the demographics, we have a lot of older people. A lot of people are mid-30s, but there's a lot of people that are between 30 and 64 years of age. They have health conditions. They have, you know, that are exacerbated by fireworks, COPD, breathing issues, anxiety, you know, all kinds of things. And so it needs to be something that is safe for everybody. We just want the community to be aware and ban them in city limits. So
What was your address? Excuse me, what was your address?
512 South Shobert Street. Yeah.
Great.
It used to
Thank
be a
you.
filbert orchard, so a long time ago.
Great, thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Charlene Lugo. I live at 512 South Shulbert Street. I asked my family to speak for me today because I'm very emotional about this. The thought of losing my home scares the hell out of me. It's about memories. My daughter was raised there. My family lives there. And I've worked on that home for over 20 years to restore it. My husband could not finish what he wanted to say, so I'm going to finish for him and try not to cry. Because this is hard for me, because I'm very angry. Okay, Ridgefield building started to be built in the late 1800s and continued through the 1950s on, which is now has 241 surviving historical buildings. These buildings represent all ages and credentials and architect styles, but one thing to be remember is none of them were built with flame retardant or resistant material. That is what we have today in our new building structures. The true wealth of Old Town Ridgefield lies within our structures and history. When you hang your banners for the big paddle, how would you feel if Scott's True Value building was missing, or the old theater? How about jogging the Thanksgiving turkey trot down the main street and the old sequoia was burned away, and that's at Scott and Kathy's house? These are the wealths that we have here in Ridgefield, and we cannot afford to lose it. I am very disappointed in our community letting somebody set off fireworks like that. I was not there to protect my neighbors because I chickened out and went down to my beach place to hide out because my nerves can't take it. Please, I'm begging you, do something about this. And remember what I'm telling you, because next time, who knows? And I filed a claim and you guys denied it. So I'll pay for the damages gladly because I have a job and I can do that. But what I can't pay for is the future because I'm not going to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to give public comment this evening? Miss Julie, anybody online?
Not seen anyone online, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for sharing tonight. We're going to move on in our agenda to the consent agenda, and I would accept a motion to approve as presented, council.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to move the consent agenda as presented into discussion, council. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on. We have a presentation this evening. This is the second quarter of 2025 budget to actual and economic update. And Mr. Kirk Johnson, we'll go over to you, sir, and let you take it from here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council and concerned citizens. So this is one of the initial phases of starting the 2026 budget, which started with the council retreat back in May. So I want to go through where we're at as of the second quarter of 2025 and then some economic updates that will prepare us as we begin the budget process. So if we go to slide 2, Julie, just a reminder of our 2025 reserves per policy. And they have increased about 2.5% overall compared to 2024, slightly down in the general fund and a little bit significantly in the building and permitting, but up in both of the utility funds as well. So as we jump over to slide 3, I just want to point out on our general fund revenues, the two main ones that we've seen some increases. Retail sales taxes, that's part of the transition plan that I want to point out through some of the slides tonight. We've been working for several years to transition from a dependence on one-time sales tax related to building activities for residential to getting more commercial retail businesses in the city. The forecast for this year was an increase of 20% retail sales tax. We're currently showing about 14% overall. And then our utility tax is also an increase of about 14%. The importance of the retail sales tax is we are seeing an increase in Ridgefield. One thing I do want to point out is nationally at the state level, and then if you listen to some news from Vancouver, we are seeing a reduction in consumer spending. So retail sales are going down. We are seeing them increase in Ridgefield, but what this tells me is the transition is working. We're starting to move over to commercial retail, but at the same point, we're probably not seeing the full amount of what we should because sales are down nationally and locally as well. Overall, we're about 38% of our revenue projections through half the year. The big reason for that is that a lot of our revenues are delayed. For instance, retail sales tax, typically we receive it 2 months after it's earned.
Okay.
So that's why it shows at that 38% level. So as we get into the next couple of slides, they both are pretty much the same thing, and this is for you to take a look at a later time. It really kind of breaks out where our revenues come from. I'll just point out the 3 top revenues that we do get are retail sales tax, 42%, property taxes at 18%, and utility taxes about 15%. And those are the flexible sources that council has to use to fund the services throughout Ridgefield. So as we jump to slide 6, this is one that council's always a little bit interested in. This is, again, another snapshot of where we're at with our transition. This is our breakdown of what's regular retail sales, which is ongoing type sales versus construction related sales tax, and that's a one-time source. As you can see, back in 2018, we were 57.6% completely unsustainable if we would stay at that level. We're currently at 37.5 for all of 2024, but I want to point out in the fourth quarter, we had reduced during that quarter down to 29.7%. So I'll show you on a follow-up slide where we're at compared to other agencies. But as you can see, since 2021, we've been pretty stable in that anywhere from 35 to about 38%. Where I would expect us to be at this point, what I'd like to see is in that 25 to 30% range. So we're getting there at 29.7 in the fourth quarter of last year. That means a good portion of our retail sales is coming from ongoing type sales tax, which will help our revenue structure. So as we jump to slide 7, this is a comparison to other agencies and the state. The state of Washington, overall, it's 22.6%. We're the high in our area at 37.5, and then La Center is next at 36%. Again, where I'd like to see us is about 25 to 30%. That's a sustainable amount. Even at 30%, we're sustainable for the next 5 or so years. That gives us an extra boost in our revenue from the one-time sales tax as we continue to transition over as more commercial opens. So on slide 8, this is a breakdown of per capita. This is a really interesting slide, and it shows we're the third highest in our area. The first is Woodland, 48,311 per capita. But the reason for that is because they have a small population compared to all of that retail they have along the freeway there. So that's an artificial amount, really, based on their population. The highest is Vancouver, which has the majority of the commercial within Southwest Washington. We're second then when you look at it that way at 32,691 per capita, which is really good. That's showing our transition is really starting to work. And then it also is a reflection of the population that we have within Ridgefield as well. As you break it out in that table next to that, our construction-related is 12,267 per capita, and our ongoing is 20,424, which, take out Woodland, is third again behind Battleground at 22 and Vancouver at just about 27. So again, we're doing pretty well there. One thing that I wanted to point out, retail vacancy in Clark County, there was a story today in the Columbian about that. Right now we're at 2.4% in all of Clark County. That's really low. That's down from 3.6% in the first quarter of 2024. In Ridgefield right now, there's 10 retail listings on LoopNet, which is a site that shows commercial vacancies. And several of those are all new construction and stuff that is either just recently moved where, say like IQ moved out of their location and opened their own storefront down the road. And that's all that's open right now in Ridgefield that's advertised. So as we move to slide 9, again for sales tax, again showing this theme of changing over our tax structure. Currently, we're at 2.3 million right now in our retail sales through June of this year. That's the highest ever at this point. Last year was the highest overall for the year at 4.5 million. So we are trending, right now we're trending for about, what I'm looking at is somewhere between about 525 million and 550 million in retail sales in the city of Ridgefield. So as we move on, just a quick snapshot, you've seen this one quite often. We have the lowest property tax levy for an entity as far as a city in all of Clark County at 61 cents per thousand. The closest to us is Woodland at 68 and then La Center at 79. Next slide, it just kind of shows the same thing. What's important here is it shows the difference between the base levy, which is the ongoing levy that we have, versus new construction, which can be added on as new property tax each year. That has been going down the last couple of years. We had a pretty significant increase from 2020 through 2023. 24 and 25 has steadily gone down a little bit. We are going to see that trend continuing because a lot of our new construction that happened in 2024 and we'll see actually on this next upcoming year for 26 is in that tax increment area. So that'll go to helping pay off the debt for the Pioneer widening bonds as well. So we'll still receive that, but it's going to be in a different bucket. So, and this will kind of show that the next slide as well. And one thing for how they calculate the assessed values for properties, every 6 years they do a actual physical appraisal of whether it's residential or commercial. In Ridgefield, residential was reviewed in 2023 and commercial was reviewed last year in 2024. So one thing that I'd also just like to bring up is there's always conversation about utility payments and what the cost of that is for residential. We are one of the lowest in the county as well. When you look at what our rates are, and we're looking at sewer, stormwater, and water because electricity is the same throughout the county. When you look at that, we are, let's see, the second lowest in the county, with the first being La Center. I'm taking out Clark County unincorporated because there are some charges that they don't charge similar to cities. But when you're looking strictly at cities, we're the second lowest. And I didn't have that one in your packet. I just wanted to bring that up as an additional note. Then there's another slide on utility taxes. That's for you to take a look at later. It just kind of shows the mix. I know there's been some questions about that in the past. For our general fund expense for 2025, we're at 44.8% of budget, and we're about 20% higher than the same point last year. The ones that I wanted to point out, City Council, Finance, and Information Technology and General Government Facilities are all showing over 50%, which typically you'd want to be right in that 50% or lower at this point in the year. The reason for each of those is single expenses that have happened in each of those funds that are things that happen early in the year, like liability insurance, the state of the city, the audit that we had, and then software purchases. Typically, we pay for our software early in the year, so that's why those are over what it would look like for the budget at this point. So, and then I have some graphs in there for you to take a look at for our general fund expense, and this kind of breaks it out by the different categories of what we have so that you can kind of see from 2020 through 2024 the expense increases that we've had. Since 2020, our expense increases have been about 126% in the general fund overall, and that's the operating portion of the budget. The big reason for that is additional personnel expense, and if we jump to the next slide, 16, we've added 35 FTEs, so full-time equivalent positions since 2020, so that's a big reason for that change. And there's another slide that we always look at as we're going through the budget for employees per thousand. It's been very steady since 2020, so we're keeping up with kind of what we look at the needs are per thousand of population. And what I just mentioned about the personnel expense, you'll kind of see that on slide 18 from 2020 to 2024 in each of the different funds, not just general fund, but street, building, water, and storm. Overall, our personnel cost has been about a 79% increase since 2020. And then we have just the percentage towards the operating budget. Typically in the funds that are more personnel related, you know, like finance or something like that, we're in the 60% range of what the cost is. And then when you get down to like water and stormwater, there's a lot of other operating costs that go in with that. So I wanted to point that out where we're at on a percentage basis. So our fund balance on slide 20, after looking at our beginning balance and the net decrease currently of 2.2 million, again, it's cyclical, so we will start to see that change. We're at a fund balance right now of 4.5 million. Our reserved amounts are just under 4.2 million, so we're still showing a net positive there. So let's jump over. There's a couple of slides for you to take a look at, and I'll allow you, that's something that you can look at later. I just wanted to point out that our current fund balance for 2025, and looking at the amended budget, we're at 22% our policy reserves to the general fund expense budget. That is significantly higher than what industry standards are. So council did set policies up that they wanted to have our policy reserves higher than normal. And a lot of that was because of this transition phase and the fact that we want to make sure we had money available to be able to go through that transition and be able to meet all of our operating costs and then have funds available for a lot of these capital projects that we've been doing as well. So let's jump to slide 23 for the street fund. Revenue is at 40% of budget. Again, vehicle motor fuel tax is a 2-month lag, similar to what I mentioned on property taxes. And then our expense is 41.8%, which is a 5% reduction from the same period last year. Our revenue is a 12% reduction from the same period last year. We are seeing less vehicle motor fuel tax coming in, and I think that's a result of a little bit of concern with the economy and people not driving and filling up as much. Not to mention there's a lot more, if you sat at the parade as people were driving into town, there are a lot of hybrids and a lot of EVs that are on the road, so there's not quite as much fuel being purchased. So our next slide 24, the building and permitting fund, we're at 51% of revenue, so we're slightly above what the projection was at this point, and we're at 42% of expense. So Claire's doing a great job of watching her budget there and making sure that she's working through what we talked about earlier with holding the line on expenses in addition to the cost of service study that you did as well. So our ending fund balance there is about 640,000. Our reserve amount's 552. So we are showing a positive currently in that fund as well. That's something that we working on. So then to kind of go over the permitting, and this is one of the things I was talking about, that we did have to transition away from that dependence on residential construction. Currently through June, our permit activity for single-family residential is 142 permits. Compared to last year, it was 157. So we're down quite a bit from there. And if you look at our history, we're down even quite a bit more. That's going to be a continuing thing because we are seeing a lot less property purchases. When we get the data from the county for sales, it's down quite a bit. We're down right now 17% compared to the same time last year in property sales. New housing starts are up right now nationally, 3%. Again, I showed that we're down here, and 4.4% down though compared to the same time in 2023. So commercial building permits, again, this is what we want to see is more permits commercially. We have 24 as of June of this year compared to 14 last year. As you can see, our big year was 2020 where we had 80 during the year. That was the start of the transition over to commercial. We saw that big jump in July and August is when we really saw the majority of those permits put in. So as we jump over to the utility operating funds, the revenue is 38% in water and 36% for expense compared to budget. Again, it's a cyclical thing, and obviously the first couple of billing cycles for water, it's a little bit less consumption because it's during the colder periods of the year. We are up in revenue 4.8% compared to last year, and we are up 35% roughly in expense, but we are below what we were expecting for the budget this year. We have had some projects that we have worked on in the operating fund there. Fund balance is ending at 3.7 million. We have reserve amounts of 1.8 million, so we're about 1.9 million available for any type of activities. Stormwater, similar story, about 38% on the revenue and 37% on the expense. That's an increase of 18% on the revenue and 5% on the expense. They're doing a great job of maintaining their expenses. They're working through the new permit requirements, although we're just entering the time of year where they have a lot of their work to be done. Ending fund balance about 911,000. We do have a higher reserve this year. The reserve amount went up significantly because of the repair reserve that takes 5% of that revenue. So we are showing a negative amount for ending available fund balance, but I do expect that to change as we go through the year. And then similar to what I showed you earlier, just a chart on where we are with the different utility funds, building and street fund for the increase since 2020 of expense. The one thing I want to point out, there's a big red line on the water that's significantly higher than anything else. In 2021, we spent 2.5 million in addition to pay off all of our water debt at that point, so that was the big change there. So we have zero water debt currently. Next slide, 29, I only want to talk about the tax increment area. This is the one that council approved so that we could bond and do the Pioneer Widening project. We initially budgeted 30,000 for revenue. We've received 74. The county learned earlier this year that they had made a mistake in their projections, and so they corrected that, and that's where that additional funding comes from. We have not had a bill from the county yet on the charge that they have for us, so we'll see that later this year. And we'll begin paying some of the debt service using this fund starting next year. So next one is the special revenue, affordable housing, debt service. Affordable housing is the one I'll talk about. We haven't gotten any revenue yet this year because we've maxed out on what the state will give us for that credit against the state retail sales tax. We'll begin to receive revenue on that again in July, so it'll either be the end of July or in August we start to see that. Once we get to the amount of 24.5 to 25,000, they cut us off the rest of the year. So let's jump to number 31. Real estate excise tax, we use this mainly for debt service for the different bonds that we have. We're at 38% of revenue, and that's because our our real estate sales are down 17% compared to last year. Our expense is 36%. The majority of that is because we still have some of our debt service to come, which will be paid in December. And then we did have some property purchases that we just closed on one yesterday, so we'll have that coming out here shortly as well. And then the Transportation Benefit District, this is the sales tax for our pavement preservation program. We're at 31% on revenue and about 4% on expense. Again, it's one that we have a 2-month lag before we receive the revenue. Expense will start this summer as we start working on the program. Excise tax ending fund balance was about 3.5 million with a reserve of 2.3. So we had about 1.2 million available. We'll be using that for some projects and debt service. Transportation Benefit District, we're at an ending fund balance right now of just over $1 million. Then our 2 impact fee funds, these are the ones that we're expecting more credits to be used rather than receiving cash. Good news is we have seen more revenue than I expected. People are paying rather than buying credits in some cases. Park impact fee revenue is at about 62% of budget, but that's still only $133,000. Our fund balance currently at the end of June was just under 1.4 million. Traffic impact fees, this is the one that I'm pretty pleased to see, is 227% of budget. Just over $1 million we've received in cash payments versus the use of credits. So we're just, again, over $1 million in fund balance right now because we had used the balance of that fund balance last year. So next, slide 33, I'm only going to talk about the equipment replacement fund. That one, our revenue is about 25%. This is mainly because we have not made the second quarter transfer yet. We'll catch that up in July. Our expense is about 79%. That's because we finally got those 4 patrol vehicles we ordered in 2023. So most of the purchases for that particular fund are done for this year. Ending fund balance at the end of June is about $493,000 for future fleet purchases. And then finally, the water SDC is the only one I'll talk about on slide 34. We're about 48%, so right where we would project, about $840,000. Our expense is about 10%. That's because several of the projects are just getting started or we have not been billed for work completed. Ending fund balance currently is about $7.5 million. Any questions at all? You know, sorry to kind of blaze through this. I should have mentioned to ask questions as we go.
Okay.
That's good. Yeah, let's do questions on the budget and revenue portion so far. And I'm gonna start on my left side and then we'll work our way over. And then once everybody, council, has had a chance to ask a question, we can go back and give you a second run at questions if you have. So Councilor Hamilton, do you have any questions?
I do, thank you. Just going back to something you said earlier on in the presentation, I know we've made a strategic transition to look at commercial and retail sales tax versus, as we transition out of property taxes. And we're at 14% right now when we projected 20. Do we have, with that unpredictability factor of kind of the world and as a business owner seeing things slow down, personally, do we have kind of a backup plan to that if those numbers don't hit the numbers that we originally budgeted or looked at?
Well, we're currently showing positive amounts in the retail sales tax. We also are seeing a bigger increase in the utility taxes than what we are expecting as well, specifically with sewer and with electricity. So those will fill some of the gaps there, but what we would also be doing is all of us are looking at our budgets and if need be, we're maintaining expenses as well to try to keep us within what the budget was.
Perfect. And then just as a follow-up for action items for us, would that mean that it would be strategic for all of us to really be looking at investing in businesses and making sure the health of those businesses stays afloat as not afloat, but like successful? I wrote a note down. I need to find it. We have 10 retail listings in Ridgefield right now. So it's not like we have a ton of new opportunities of businesses coming in, it sounds like. So we want to make sure that the businesses that we have at hand are hitting those numbers that we've projected.
Correct. And the last time I talked with the commercial realtor that we use, space does not stay open very long in Ridgefield. You know, if somebody closes for whatever reason it might be, they fill up right away. We're very close to 100% occupancy, and we do have a lot of other businesses that are in some form of construction or planning right now. The 10 that I mentioned are just those that are just at the point where they can or will be opening soon. Some of those are the ones in front of Legacy Trails. That still has at least a few months before they're ready to open, but they're trying to get those leased now. And as you can see, as you drive by there's a lot of signs already showing that some of those businesses are already taken, so.
Awesome, thank you.
Great. Councilor Burkle, we'll go to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Johnson, just a personal question. How much do we get returned from a gallon of gasoline sold in Ridgefield?
Boy, that's a complicated answer to give. There's a formula based on per capita, and I don't have the number right off the top of my head, but it's somewhere in the 25 to 30 cents per capita is what we would get. But then it depends if the fuel sales are not as much, then it will reduce.
Right.
So in every year they change that per capita amount.
Thank you.
Great. Councilor Wells, do you have a question for Mr. Johnson?
Yes, I got one.
What was the retail tax that we have gotten so far this year? Probably have to dig back a ways, but I think I heard 50 million, but I think it was in there.
No, that's sales. The actual overall sales is what I'm projecting, 525 million to 550 million, which then we get a percentage of that, which is 1% minus some fees. Let me get to revenue.
Sorry about that.
Currently, what we've received is 1.7 million, just over 1.7 million.
Okay. Yeah, I heard the 550 and it just.
Yeah, that's the actual
on a
overall
different
sales.
page.
And that includes construction?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Mayor Pro Tem, we'll go to you, ma'am.
Can we go back to the screen on the levies? So I hear a lot of comments from people about all getting their new assessment on their houses and their taxes going up. But I think what we're seeing here is that actually the only reason that people's taxes are going up is because of the appraised value, not because we are raising the taxes or levy or anything like that. Is that correct?
That is correct, and just because the assessed value goes up, that doesn't mean Ridgefield gets more money.
Right.
So what typically where the taxes would go up for somebody because the assessed value goes up is for those that are levied a certain dollar amount. Ours is whatever amount we got this year, and hopefully I can explain this where it's easy to understand. So let's say we got 100,000 this year in property taxes. We can only increase by statute 1%. So we get 1% of that $100,000 that we could add to it next year. If we get new construction and more assessed value, then that lowers our levy rate. If it's an entity like the state or something like that, that it's a certain dollar amount per thousand, then they'll get more because of that. So that's where typically we're going to be one of the lower levies that's going to receive funding.
There is so much misunderstanding of that.
Correct.
In the community, and I mean, I don't know how to, we can tell people 100 times, but I don't think most of them have any idea that that's the way it works.
Yeah, the county gets a lot of questions about that every year, and,
Yeah.
and really that's the place to send them is the assessor's office to explain how that works. And they do a pretty good job, and their website does have some good information on it about how that works as well.
That's a good idea to send them to the website. Okay, thank you. I
Great.
just wanted you to, thanks.
Councilor Favela, any questions? No questions, Councilor Davis?
Yeah, I've got a couple. The first one is looking at the FTE. I'm more curious. Is our FTE, I guess you might say per capita, consistent with other similar sized cities, more or less, about right, what you would expect?
Again, that's kind of a difficult question because we may offer different services. They may have different things. What we're trying to do is look at that we have consistency for what we're doing and that we're able to offer the services with the staffing that we have. That's why we've really looked at since 2020, even really since before that, we're trying to keep a very even overall, because you can see the all FTE, we're at 5.21 right now, so we've increased that a little bit. And then the other one is just general and street fund FTE, but we're really trying to keep that as even as possible to make sure if we added new services, then we would be asking for additional staffing for that particular new service. But as we do the same services, and then we also look obviously at efficiencies, and we've done a great job. Council's given funding for different softwares and things like that, so that we can have better equipment, better tools, and be more efficient. But as long as we can keep within what we think is right for Ridgefield, that's really what we're shooting for.
Okay. The second thing I had, and this is more just a, I guess like kind of a historic-ish question. We had that big jump in commercial in July, August of 2020. And obviously we know what the state of the world was during that. Was that due to like a program that launched that all of a sudden, I mean, that was a huge spike.
Well,
And it hasn't really gone down, but I mean, there was a...
couple things. the few years before that, we started working with a company trying to recruit different firms from around the company, or the country. Rose Hours was the first that we
Yeah.
really brought in. So we were really trying to build that. So there was interest, then things kind of shut down, obviously, during that time period. So there was that pent-up demand that they wanted to get their permits in as soon as they could start getting their permits in, so we could start doing at least, that was the land use part of it. They brought them in, and they brought them in pretty hot and heavy, and that's when we started the land use part of it. A lot of that took a few years to really come to building.
Yeah.
So that's really, and a lot of it, not only was it the actual land use and then the building of that first, but it was also the TIs to go with some of those, like around Rose Hours that had already built, but they needed to build out and be able to open.
We didn't have any of the opportunity zones up here, right? Okay, that's why, because that's where I originally thought was, did we have a little bit of, but even then the timeline wouldn't have super lined up. Anyway, all right, that was just more of a curiosity. Thanks.
Okay.
Just a question from me real quick. Going back to Mayor Pro Tem's question, looking at our property tax rates, you know, and we always talk about this. We say, hey, we got the lowest levy rate in the county for property taxes. That's for the city proper. But when you factor in all of the taxes, you know, like library, CCFR, you know, RSD, all of that stuff, like where do we actually end up there? And as far as our rates, because like if I'm a homeowner, and I am, you know, I look out at that and I think, well, that's great. It's 61 cents per thousand, but there's all these other taxes in there too. So where do we really stack up if we consider those?
If you look at the overall rate, when you take in schools, the county, the state, everything together, we're somewhere around, I think it's $8.75 or $9 per thousand. If you take like a Camas or something like that, they're in the $13 or more. Vancouver, that's even higher than that. So we're still at the lowest. One of the things that does factor out here, though, is and we'll see that here shortly, our values of our houses are quite a bit higher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that does have an impact there. But when you look at the overall rate per thousand, we are lower.
Okay. Okay, good. So we're still the lowest, even with all those factored in.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
And I can bring that information back to you, because I am doing it off of memory right now, but we are quite a bit lower. So.
Okay. Okay. Council, I think everyone's had a chance to ask a first round of questions. Any additional questions for staff on this one, or would we like to continue? Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I have one more thing. So we brought in a consultant and we talked about the issues of getting building permits. And we talked about how we wanted to have people to be able to get them more timely instead of having to go through processes that took more time. But I'm looking at the number of people working in the building permit under Ms. Lust, and it doesn't look to me like maybe we have increased the employee count in that position. What was done about that? I mean, did we decide that we needed to, or what was done about that?
So we did increase early on. When we first saw the boom of the commercial, we increased at that time. Since that point, we have been able to not only improve our software, we've improved our processes, and we've gotten a lot more efficient. In fact, her staff have actually taken things in that we were both sending out to consultants, and then also the Public Works Engineering team they've taken those in and began to do those in-house. So they haven't needed to add staff. In fact, they do have a vacancy right now as well that we haven't filled at this point, but they've just gotten more efficient, and we don't have the boom that we had, but we do have some very complex commercial projects that requires a lot more inspections. But at this point, we feel that the staff didn't need to continue to increase there.
We're not getting complaints or people feeling like we're holding them up?
No, actually our turnaround time is less than most other agencies.
That's wonderful. Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think we can move on to the economic indicators.
So final slide, cash and city investments. This, again, take a look at it. We have a total investment portfolio of just over $34 million, cash on hand 3.2 at the end of June. Important things are yield on investment is 3.11. We have a goal of 2%, so we're above that, and a weighted average maturity of 18.52 months. We're all within policy that council approved. So now to economic indicators, slide 36. Ridgefield employment, this is our overall employment that we receive from our business licenses for the information they fill out each year as they renew their business license. And then it also includes contacting all of the government agencies which don't have to have a license to get their employment as well. So as you can see in 2024, we did go down just over 100 employees, and that includes adding Costco and a couple of other places. We do have several of our businesses that reduced their staffing, and I think that was a result of what they were seeing coming in the economy. So that is something that we'll monitor and keep on top of. Clark County unemployment rate, they don't publish one that's specifically Ridgefield just for our area. We are down to 4.3% in May of this year. We'll see some new numbers coming out here shortly. One of the reasons that it is low is because of the participation rate in Clark County. 64.2% of all people who could be working are working. Right now, the main employers in Clark County are healthcare and social assistance at just over 29,000. Then government comes in next at just under 27,000. The two highest increases in employment in May were government at 200 and construction at 200. And for those that decreased, it was manufacturing, construction, and things like that were the ones that decreased. Professional and business services were also up by 900, and education and healthcare, and this is over the year, over 800. So let's jump to slide 37. This is our population and percent change. We're at 16,290 officially right now by the Office of Financial Management with the state of Washington. Our increase for 2025 compared to 2024 is 3.17%. As you can see, that's a pretty significant decrease than what we've been seeing, which was routinely in the double digits, as high as almost 16%. So that is coming down, and I'm forecasting that that's going to stay at a little bit lower level over the next few years. Slide 38. This is our CPI. This is the inflationary factor. May of 2025, 2.4%, and that red line is a 1% statutory increase we can get off property tax. So this shows, if you're really focusing on property tax, paying the bills, we're always dropping behind. So that's why we have to really work on our revenue structure with our transition that we're working on with sales tax and things like that. So if you look at all items and then you take out the two that are really, food and energy, they're a little bit more volatile. It's 2.8% right now for our area. So let's jump to 39. So this is where I kind of talked about earlier real estate sales. Currently through May, we're at 155, which is 17% down compared to last year. And if you look back at 2021, we had 1,115 real estate sales in Ridgefield. So that's pretty significant. Of course, we did have over 600 permits at the time, so that was a little bit different. As of July 3rd, fixed mortgage per Freddie Mac is 6.67% for the highest of credit. Median list price in Ridgefield is $769,450 in July. 154 homes are listed for sale, 56 are under contract, and a median time on the market right now is 71 days. If you remember, just over the last few years, you would lucky if you got to 10 days. Median sale price in June was $645,000, and that's up 12% from June of 2024. We had 35 homes sell for about $24.3 million. Right now, there's 4.4 months of current inventory in Ridgefield, which works out to a balanced market, which is typically between 4 and 6 months of inventory. So if we get to the median home values, Camas is the highest in our area at almost 761,000. Ridgefield, we're next with 679,000. Median sale price, Camas again was the highest. We are at, as of May of 2025, this was from a different source. This was from the assessor's office. We are at 643,860. Now, just to kind of compare, as we were talking about, you know, affordability and things like that, at the median sale price of 643,860, putting 20% down, which is pretty hard for people nowadays, that's 129,000 down. A mortgage payment would be $3,804. That's pretty significant. So for the next slide, just the average rental expense, because we have been talking about rentals with the property that we had purchased. Right now in 2025, the average, and this is just average rental, $1,899 compared to 2020 it was $1,415. So what I'm trying to get at here is this is something to think about with those retail sales, you know, why things are going down and people aren't spending quite as much is prices are going up, and, you know, it's not Ridgefield, this isn't, you know, something that's just to us, it's really around Washington and around the country. So finally, Clark County median income is just under 104,000. Per the Census Bureau, and the last time they published it was 2023, Ridgefield was 117,550. So just some stats that I wanted to show as we get ready to get into budget. That's everything that I have, unless there's any questions.
That's great.
Okay, council will entertain questions on this end. I'm going to start at my far right end this time and go with Councilor Davis, and then we'll work our way down.
Can I steal your question? Sorry. The employment numbers, do those include work from home? And if they, like...
Stole everyone's question.
Yeah, sorry.
It does not. So,
Yeah.
again, that's a difficult question because not all work from home include that there's an employee. We have business licenses on the report. It'll say there's a business license, but it says 0 employees. So we can make the assumption that there's always one. We chose not to do that. We're being consistent with how we report to the state and how community development is looking at it within the comp plan. Yeah, that's correct, no.
What?
So it does not include the work.
So it doesn't include those. So when we look at, you know, say we saw like a slight dip, but I mean, that's good to know. It's good data, but it's not the full picture in terms of like the employment status of people that live in Ridgefield.
That and anybody working from home that's employed by others. Yeah. If they said they had an employee, we counted that. That's a consistent method we've used ever since 2019, and that's how they're using it in the comp plan as well.
Okay. I guess it's just how much of the picture are we seeing with that data, and that helps. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Councilor Favela. No questions. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem. Okay. Councilor Wells. Oh wow, look at that.
Great presentation, though. Yeah.
Okay, just to follow up on that. I mean, we've talked about this before with the work from home numbers and employees, and we look at businesses, but we don't really have a true number. And I think we've done a couple of like soft surveys before. Is there any way we can start employing, or is even the state looking at this? Because like work from home is really on the rise, and so it'd be great to see that in comparison with all the other types of employment that we have.
So if it's a work from home where they're actually working their own business, we could get that data by saying if they have a business license, there's at least one employee.
Sure.
Those that are working for a company based in Vancouver, they don't have to list necessarily. The way that we're looking at the data is we're looking at a Ridgefield address.
Yeah.
So they may have a business license, but they may not necessarily have people working in Ridgefield at their home. They may just be coming in and doing business in Ridgefield. So if they're outside of our jurisdiction, we weren't counting them. So that one's a little bit more difficult to be able to look at. But for those that are working a business out of their home, in Ridgefield. We could say, if they have a business license, there's at least one person.
And just one thing I would add is that for the comprehensive plan update that we're doing, we are assuming a 25% work from home, like remote work, within our calculations for
Right.
jobs. So when we're looking at our
Yeah.
20-year population projection for, housing and jobs, we are including 25% within that.
Right, so we're just putting a blanket 25% on it. I'm wondering, is there a more kind of exact way to kind of like ascertain that? Because like I'm a W-2 work from home employee, but I technically don't exist on the books of Ridgefield, right?
That's
my-
the struggles, because there
Yeah.
are a lot of different types of remote work, right? And so what we can show is we can show business licenses for home business. So that's one piece of it. We can show the businesses that are in Ridgefield, and they report a number of employees, and maybe not all of those employees work at the office. They're actually working from home as well. So we report those. But what we can't do a very good job of, and nationally this is an issue, is to be able to actually account for you and other employees like you that are actually working from home for an organization that is outside of our jurisdictional boundaries. For that, there are national statistics that we are using to drive it. There are not good state or local statistics for that. That's where the 25% comes from.
Sure.
Those are actually from national surveys that are statistically valid surveys of national data. And we have national data that actually breaks it down by urban, inner suburban, suburban, outer suburban, and rural, and does break down that percentage by different type of community, which is how we got to the percentage for Ridgefield.
Gotcha, okay. Councilor Favela.
I would like to explore looking at the business licenses with 0 employees, because I fall under that category. I, like Mayor, have a full-time employee. I work from home. They're not located in Ridgefield, but I also own a business in Ridgefield, but I am the sole employee and work from home with that business. So I would like to maybe explore how many other people are kind of falling into that same category and what that looks like, just so that we have a good picture of what is going on within Ridgefield.
Yeah, we could do that.
That's
Yeah.
one of the great things that Mr. Johnson and our team have done since, when did we start working with the state?
2019.
Since 2019, we started working with the state, where we had a lot of businesses, even downtown businesses, who did not have a city business license up till 2019. We ended up working with the state so that when you open a business, you simply say your address, and it automatically gives you a business license for Ridgefield as well as for the state of Washington. It's given us much better data for that. So yes, that's absolutely something that we can add into our analysis.
Okay, great. Councilor Burkle, you had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Johnson, when Ms. Lust puts out her monthly list of new businesses, should we assume that every one of those has been issued a license?
Yes, at the time that they're getting that, that's because it's come through the Department of Revenue business licensing system.
Thank you.
Great.
And Counselor, that is kind of the beginning of our process of looking at the work from home and really thinking about remote work, is that every month we get those business license reports, the new business report. And as you know, the vast majority of those are home-based businesses. And so that was what really told us that story, that we do have a lot of people working from home in Ridgefield.
Thank you.
Great, and Councilor Davis, we'll go to another question from you.
Not as much a question, thank you, as more of just, I guess, an observation that I wanted to share with the rest of us as we kind of, continue our decision-making stuff. Just, the last slide, per the Census Bureau, this is not our data, but Census Bureau, the median household income in Ridgefield is 117. Say you round that up to 120 and it makes it so that's like a gross, like 10,000 per month for a household income. We, two slides earlier looked at, and that's gross, so that's before taxes. So you take 30% off the top-ish. So they're clearing about 7,000 bucks. But the median sales price in our community eats up about half of that. And just as that math is sort of like marinating for me, I wanted to share it with you as we go through our process. And I'm not saying like there's something obvious that we can do, but that's a big thing to me. And even on the rental piece, you know, almost $2,000 a month. It's just, I think it's something that we should be conscious of and aware of, what's going on in our community with the cost of living and everything else.
Yeah, it's good.
I guess I'd like to make a comment there. One of the comments, though, is a lot of them homes are older and have been purchased since 2000, and I'm trying to figure out where to go at. But anyway, they got a lot cheaper interest rates. They got interest rates that are half of what the going rate is now or below. So they actually don't have the $4,000 a month house payments. They've only got $2,000, $2,500 a month payments or there. So that figure is skewed a little bit too, far as calculation goes.
Go ahead.
It does make it unattainable though now for people wanting to come here.
Yeah, in terms of new people coming in, that was my
Especially
next
younger
thought.
people,
You
yeah.
know, is it might be that more of a slowdown where we're locked in with, the folks we have, and there might not be as many transactions that we're, anticipating just because of that data.
Which I think is what drives so many older people moving here because they do have the money from their other house, but the younger couples, it's tough, yeah.
Okay, I'd like to wrap this up, and I guess Mr. Johnson, just a final question for you on this is just in summary, we saw where we're at, it looks like maybe employment's a little bit down, home prices and home values are up, spending might be a little bit down, and then, just kind of bridging these two things together, as we start looking towards the budget and go into like full-fledged our budget season, what is that kind of the big picture here that we should be mindful of as we're making decisions for the city over the next year and how we budget?
So I think what I was trying to get across is our transition is working. It's going to take a little bit longer than what we initially had hoped. Right now, there's a lot of uncertainty in the economy. Ridgefield's doing better than most, so I think that's something that we are seeing. But there's uncertainty. Right now, there's uncertainty at the federal and the state level with their budgets, and as far as what we're getting with grant money, and as you heard, the state's going to be burdened a little bit more with some of the decisions that have been made recently. That could affect our state shared revenues. I don't know that, but I think it's just caution. That we're kind of looking and we're being very cautious and thoughtful about what we're doing in the process. We do that every year anyway, but I do think that's something, as we're continuing to go through the transition, that we're always, looking at the bigger picture as well.
Great, okay, I think that's a great way to sum it up, and again, thank you to you and the staff. I see Ms. Juliet is in the audience tonight. Thank you for all the work you do as well, but thank you for the work you did to put this sizable presentation together, and look forward to the next part of it. So, okay, we're gonna move on in our agenda. We actually have no business to discuss tonight, which is probably the only meeting this year we'll have that. So, so we'll just go straight back to our second public comment section. Anybody wishing to address City Council regarding items not subject to a specific public hearing may come forward at this time to the podium or use the raise hand feature located on the toolbar or at the bottom of the Zoom screen. For controls over the phone, press *9 to raise hand and press *6 to mute or unmute. Please state your name and limit your comment to 3 minutes.
My name is Michael Jennings. After I talked about making fireworks illegal, people gave some very serious problems with fireworks. So that moves us in the direction of making it illegal, I hope. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you again. Anybody else in the room tonight wishing to give public comment? Seeing none, Miss Julie, anybody online?
Not seeing anyone online.
Okay, we will close public comment and we're gonna move forward with council and staff reports. And I'm gonna start with Mr. Wells. We'll go to you and then we'll go left and and then we'll go right over here.
Thank you. I'm on, thank you. I gotta say, I got 10 meetings that I went to, but a couple of comments. I want to comment on the fireworks thing. During our briefing, this has already been brought up, and some discussion that we may take this subject up down the road. But in the briefing, it was some concerns with individuals. Each one of us had comments brought to us. The other thing I was going to say was the parade was wonderful that we had on the 4th. Always enjoyed by everybody. And I don't know whether anybody else has heard any negative comments. The bus shuttle was really a plus, as far as I'm concerned. And I think a lot more people could see people riding the bus, and instead of walking from Great Blue or farther back into town, they should have went to the high school and rode the bus in, and they could ride right back to their rig. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Burkle.
Thank you. Just a couple things to comment. Yeah, on the 4th of July parade, it's always just absolutely remarkable. And a comment on the buses, many of you know, we staged cars in the Costco parking lot, and C-Tran provided buses. And to the best of my knowledge, I think C-Tran moved in and out 2,800 passengers that day, which saved a lot of congestion in town. I attended the port meeting. Just one thing of importance there. They still have 15 homes, I believe, to mitigate in Ridgefield regarding the pollution. And their first bid failed. The bidder was unable to meet the necessary requirements. So they went out and got awarded the contract to the next lowest bidder. So they should be moving forward with the removal of the pollution from those homes. Also, just a great opportunity to have attended the retirement party from our Director of Public Works, Mr. Green. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Hamilton, we'll go to you, ma'am.
Thank you. I got to attend my first AWC conference, so that's the Association of Washington Cities, which was really cool, and I particularly enjoyed a couple sessions. One was building a positive police culture. Another one was those in need, serving our most vulnerable residents. Another one was how to create a culture of belonging, and then Jurassic Parliament, I think the mayor and Councilor Favela and Councilor Davis all very much enjoyed. We got to do a really great bus tour with the Planning Commission, Parks Board, Roundabout Committee that I found very informational, fun. It was great to have everybody together. Mr. Green's retirement party at Windy Hill I was able to attend, which I thought was beautiful and very well done. The 4th, of course, as we all said, amazing, really fun. I felt like it flew by, the amount of children. I was trying to run and let pick candy, and I probably shouldn't have done that, and then I got behind, but it was so fun. It was a blast. I really had a great time. I went to the school board meeting, which was all of 5 minutes because they're out for the summer. So that was this week. And then I just wanted to note that tomorrow we have Main Street Days downtown from 11 to 2. It's also a moolah weekend if we want to go support downtown businesses. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Councilor. Okay, Councilor Favela, we'll go to you.
Thank you so much. I echo a lot of the same sentiments as my fellow council members. I also attended the AWC conference. 4th of July parade is one of my very favorite things. I don't think there was anything negative except for the one gentleman who yelled from the crowd, "How about that splash pad?" And I'm wondering the same thing. So I'm just as frustrated as the community is. I think we all share that sentiment with no splash pad, and yeah, I'm looking forward to when it actually is working. I also attended the bus tour, a cab meeting, an ECHO meeting, and fire commission meeting. I know there is some nervousness about the traffic plan with in and out coming and standing traffic on the freeway, and getting nervous about first responders being able to navigate that traffic. But I do know that this city, we are actively working on a plan to make sure that there is no standing traffic, crossing our fingers and making sure that we can get the flow good. So I'm looking forward to some smooth traffic plans happening when In-N-Out finally opens. And that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilor Davis.
Yeah, thank you. Echo the sentiments, AWC conference, the community tour, and Mr. Green's retirement, all well done, all valuable. I did do the 4th of July run, which I appreciate staff for being able to put together. It was very well attended. I regret to inform you guys that I did not win. As expected.
You're supposed to be the rabbit.
I know. I was the rabbit that then got passed by a bunch of high school kids within about 3 seconds. So, no, it was fantastic. The weather was great. I did go to the C-Tran board meeting. Those ones are always interesting. And then yesterday, there was a groundbreaking for C-Tran for the 3rd Vine bus rapid transit line, and the northern terminus is going to be at WSU Vancouver, so not far from us, and it's going to go all the way to the waterfront, and that's been a very successful program for C-Tran. They opened the first one back in 2017 that went all the way down from downtown to basically like the mall via 4th Plain. They're working on extending it. Now they have the Red Vine that goes down Mill Plain. So this one will go right down Highway 99. So it's a good, it's going to be a good connection point, and even though it's WSU Vancouver, we've got a lot of younger folks in our community that go there, and to be able to have access to like a quicker route to engage in, stuff around the county is going to be great. So tomorrow I got my water tour with Mr. Thamert. Looking forward to that tomorrow. Yes, I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, that's what I got, Main Street Day as well.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you, Councilor. Mayor Pro Tem.
So the only meeting that I have attended in the last couple of weeks was with the Clark Regional Wastewater District. And so basically, just a project that they're going to do here in Ridgefield, which is just installation of a sanitary sewer pump station, which is going to serve Royal Road, Cardi. It's something they've planned for a long time, Kennedy Farm East Subdivision and whatever. So they talked about that, and I have the paperwork here. But that's about it for me. I went to Chuck's retirement and whatever, but I was not here for the 4th of July parade, but I did hear it was fabulous. So.
Yeah. Good. Okay. I'll be brief tonight. First of all, thank you to our neighbors who joined me on the Meet Me on Wednesday walk last week. That was a lot of fun. We had quite a few turn out, and we had some good conversations and follow-on conversations coming out of that. Earlier this week, the city manager and I gave 2 of our county councilors, Councilor Fuentes and Councilor Young, a tour of the city. Yeah. It's always a good opportunity to show people around town. I love doing it, and to just basically show them the jewel of a city that you have. And something that stuck out from that event was just driving through town. I think it was Councilor Young remarked, and then Councilor Fuentes agreed, which said, hey, everything looked just so, there was so much intentionality. That's what they kept saying. There was so much intentionality with where we're going, because we were showing them, we started in downtown, we worked our way towards the junction and showed them Pioneer Village, and they were looking at that and they said, there's just all these different areas here that feel very well intentioned. And we, of course, patted ourselves on the back a little bit because we do a good job of that. And so as you look around and as we're going through this process and you look at the different pockets of our community, like where those are, Pioneer Village, very walkable area. We have our mixed use zones up there. You get up to the junction, which is the regional businesses. You come all the way back downtown here to the downtown area and the waterfront. These are all the small businesses. These are the things that people talk about. When they talk about Ridgefield, they always bring up the downtown area. And so as we're going through this, I counsel for you all setting policy. You should be proud because there is quite a bit of intentionality there. And to staff, again, thank you. You guys do a tremendous effort to making sure that that all comes together and that we can flex a little bit to county councilors when they're looking at our city and, and as we're going through our comp plan and trying to get that wrapped up and make sure that we, our vision for that continues and is preserved for the next 20 years. So it was a good event, good thing to be a part of. City Manager, we'll go to you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council and community. Council, you've done a great job conveying all of the myriad of things that are going on in the city that have been going on and that will be going on. I don't have anything specific to add unless you have any questions for me.
Any questions, council? No? Okay, you're off the hook. Okay, Mr. Thamer.
Okay, so a couple of months ago, we were approached by the American Legion looking for space to store their American flags. They were just up on the 4th of July. So I worked with our operations team to try to find a location. We could not find any space in our buildings, but we did find some outdoor space, and we were able to make room in one of our storage yards downtown or by the waterfront. But we needed a building or something to house the flags in. So we were able to partner with the port and purchase a shipping container. And right before the 4th of July, the container was delivered and the American Legion was able to move in. And I heard from their president, Jen McDonald, that it was amazing to have the flags downtown again, much easier for deploying them on the 4th and then picking them up after everything was over. So
Great job.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm really glad to hear that, and I know that's a huge win for them because they have been searching for it. So thank you so much for your effort there.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, you had the keynote tonight, but do you have anything further to add?
I do not have anything else to add, but I'll answer any more questions you might have.
Any questions for? Nope. Okay, you're off the hook. Okay, Ms. Notnaris.
I don't have anything either.
Okay, and then we will go to Ms. Jeannie online. Is she online? I couldn't tell. Yes. Ms. Parker.
I am. I'm here this evening, but I don't have anything to report. So just happy to answer any questions and wish all a happy summer.
Thank you. Okay, great. And then last, but certainly not the least, Chief Doriot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you may know, 4th of July is a big event for Ridgefield, and it is a mandatory workday for all personnel from the Ridgefield Police Department, with the exception of our non-commissioned. I just want to give a big shout out. It takes a lot of energy and effort for them to bring in that many people for that shorter duration, and then to get them out safely. And my team did a fantastic job, as they always do. It's difficult to navigate sometimes the hot weather and the people that are excited to be here and they want to get into town. But it went very well, and just a huge shout out and how proud I am of them. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any questions for Chief? One.
No question, just a comment, but the highlight of the parade, Chief, was rolling around in the golf cart with you, myself, my daughter, Counselor Hamilton and her daughter, listening to Miley Cyrus, Party in the USA.
And with that, this meeting is adjourned.